Welcome to the Unchurching Podcast. There's just so much more. Hi there. Thank you for joining us for episode 1. This entire podcast is an invitation. It's an invitation to take a journey. This is a journey that we have been on, and it is a journey that we think is so important and so imperative to help people with, purely because of how we experienced it and how difficult that actually was. So my name's Clint Davis, and my beautiful wife, Rachelle Davis, who's actually been guiding me more along the way than anything. For once, she's ahead and I'm following. But babe, this is fun. It's great, and it's kind of scary and spicy, and who knows how people are going to take this, but I guess we just hope that we help some people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many unknowns, but this isn't something that we would do for any other reason other than we feel like we're supposed to be doing it. And so in that sense, I mean, I wouldn't normally just come on a podcast and share things like this openly. And so I really think our heart in this is to meet the listener where they're at, and hopefully, even if it's one nugget or 2 nuggets we drop during an episode while sharing our journey and story, that can help them just feel seen and feel like they're doing really well in this process. Then we've done our job, and that's all that counts at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love it. And a lot of people, we know that we'll never hear from you. We won't know if this helped you or not, but that's okay, as long as it helped you. And it's not just going to be about church and about leaving church. The journey involves an awakening process that takes you into a place of consciousness. And if these words are new to you, don't worry about it. They are relatively new to us too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of this, that we feel we are just at the right point where those who are going through the journey, we can still relate to, and they can still relate to us. We haven't waited years down the line. But I can promise you that we are not trying to give you something that you have to adhere to. We're not giving you a new religion. We're not giving you a new belief system. We're not actually giving you anything. We are only inviting you on a journey of discovery to take yourself, and ours should not be the only voice involved in that. So we encourage you to take the journey. It's a rewarding one. It's a scary one. It can be a pain.
It can be a lot, but it's totally worth it. And it's crazy because the thing that you've seen for so many years is becoming real, but not in the way you thought it would.
Yeah, that's right. My background is radio, and I did that all over in 4 different countries, in different stations, including one Christian station.
Yes.
I can't say it was more dysfunctional than the others. They were all dysfunctional, to be honest with you. Radio is. But it was fun times. At the same time, I was a high-performance driving instructor on racetracks. Managed to do that in 3 of the 4 countries we lived in. And then, at the same time, I am a qualified theologian. So most of my life was involved in church. I did, 3 years of Bible school, 4 years of my degree, everything that goes in between. Have served and led in churches from 30 people to 30,000. I started out in a 30,000 people mega church in South Africa. And so I've been in the counting rooms. I've been everywhere. Okay. Yeah. So I'm speaking my perspective from that place, that I believe I've seen more than enough to have a voice in this. And I also believe I've studied more than enough in this field to have a voice from the theological side.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's kind of what my part in this journey is to help you bridge from where you are now if you're having doubts about the church. But I think more likely, if you're listening, you've already been frustrated enough to leave or be near to leaving, and now you're not really sure where to go and what to do and how to replace all these things. And we get it. We totally get it. But that's been my journey, and it's been informing.
Yeah. I mean, for you, it's from day one, all in. I think for me, I started out at a Methodist church growing up, and it was more just about that's what we did on a Sunday. And I think after youth group and all the fun activities kind of stopped at church, and you had to go to the main church, I think I stopped going. So I didn't go to church for the longest time until I met you, and I hadn't seen anything really about the charismatic movement at all, like the evangelical movement. And I think I went with you in South Africa, where we're from, to a church there. That was the first place I was like, they're singing loud songs, they're lifting their hands. And so that was like wild for me. And I was in my mid-20s already by then, that I only really got pulled into this.
Right.
And then only really once we moved to Dubai and got into church community like crazy there. And so, yeah, I haven't seen as much as you have, and I don't think I've been, for the lack of a better word, tainted by some of the systematic. No, it was inverted commas. It counts. It's not a bad.
We don't do
word.
Video, so
I know. That's why I said it's in it. But yeah, I don't think I was as affected throughout my whole life and had such a deeply entrenched into me as you did. So you're really coming from the side of someone who would understand your journey as being like deep and, really committed to it. And then I think from my side, I was a little more loose and out on the outskirts and not as like all bought in. So it's a cool perspective, which I think is why my journey kind of started before yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And why
Coming
you
out of
seem
the
to
church,
capture some of the consciousness concepts and freedom concepts quicker than I do. I have to work through some stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And we'll get into all that good stuff. You might have heard some of it in the trailer. But that's right. We moved from South Africa to Dubai in 2008. We didn't know what we were going to do there. We found a church that we thought was an amazing church. And to this day, I still think it was probably the best church experience. There were like 3 years there that were just unbelievable in terms of what we believed at the time and what we saw happening. You see, we're not here to bash church. We just believe that church is very narrow. I will also say at the outset, neither of us are active Christians anymore, and we would not define ourselves as Christians.
Not in the Western sense,
Yeah, so I just want to be upfront to that. We still believe in Jesus, just not in the way that the church believes in Jesus. So we'll get to all that good stuff. But moving to Dubai, we did find that church, and then it's really where we started getting involved a lot. We got on a lot of mission trips there. We're on leadership for a very long time. Ultimately, staff at that church,
and staff,
and consider that this is in the Middle East, and so there's a very interesting dynamic to being a Christian in the Middle East. So that was certainly a lot of experience, and then we moved to Australia.
Australia was, every church environment we've been in has been very unique and very different. Australia was more of like a quiet, small, coastal town church. It was cool. Some of our best friends were leaders in that church.
Like surfer church. Think surfer church.
Yeah, proper surfer church. We sat at tables and chairs like in a coffee, like we were in a coffee shop at church. And
we preached off a wine barrel.
You preached off a wine barrel. It was a very cool. Nothing was really about the building, or it was set up so that it was really about community and about the people. And it was really cool.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was very cool. And after that, we ended up winning the green card lottery to live in America. And this is interesting. And in the story, we'll have to look at this in the journey at some point, because this is something that I felt during Bible school days to be in America. But I had played baseball for 27 years, so I'd already adopted the culture to some extent, only to find out after meeting Rachelle that she also had adopted the culture in a massive way as a child.
Yeah, I loved everything about America as a kid. I had family here, and so family would send all the cool, trendy, newest toys coming out in the US to South Africa, and I'd be the only South African kid that had all the US stuff. I just wanted
toys and shoes. Listen, we were living under sanctions, people. So
I know.
What you could get was gold. I mean, literally, if somebody arrived back with a pair of Reeboks at school,
it was wild.
Everybody would gather around.
The whole school would be having a look at your shoes.
Yeah.
It's
so
crazy.
You got to wonder where our idea of America being so amazing started. It started way back then with some very good marketing. And I think that was America's glory days
it was
to this point anyway. So it was true. But we had entered the green card lottery, which is a thing that the State Department runs. And we'd been entered in this for 6 years. And at a 0.73% chance of winning, we, quote unquote, won. You really just win an expedited process and a nerve-wracking interview with the FBI agent.
Gosh, yes.
And we were able to enter the States a lot easier and ultimately become citizens a few years ago. And so this was 10 years of us speaking about living in America and saying that God would have to do something crazy like the green card lottery. Now, whether that is prophetic and what God was saying, or whether that was manifestation, which we'll get into at some point, and that we actually manifested this, that we'll leave open for debate and for personal belief. But it's very interesting how we got here and now we're here.
That's crazy. You don't want an explanation about that just yet from my side?
No, not from your side. Let's just ease into this a little bit.
Okay, we're good.
So, like we said, we want to bring you on a journey, and that's going to be progressive to some extent. Mm-hmm. But I do want to tell you that if you are here and you are frustrated with the church or such, or you're not sure what to do after church, or you're feeling a bit lost, actually, if you go to our website, you'll find a whole lot of reasons and things that you might be feeling. And this is all to help you understand that you're validated in what you believe, what you're feeling, right? But if you're feeling that discontent, that is really why we're doing this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you hear things that you're not used to hearing, if you hear words or terms or things like that that are out of the box or might have been taboo before, maybe your preacher told you can't read that author or you can't believe that, I just want to say that you have been in a narrow system that may have been showing you a piece of the divine of God, but this is about being broader than that. And so if that hasn't worked for you being narrow, then it's time to be broader. It's time to think about other terms and things. And I'm telling you this because I've had to do this. I've had to put my prejudice aside as a former preacher and theologian and go, okay, maybe this is actually right. And some of the weirdest stuff just seems to be backed up by science and experiences from people and all kinds of things. So I just want to encourage you to be open about stuff.
Yeah, I think a great mindset to have going into this is that you don't need to have all the answers. I think if you're on this journey and you're starting this journey now, in Christianity, I felt like I needed to have all the answers, because what if someone asked me about this or that? Like, I need to have a proof of things that I believe in, right? And so when you step away, then you have none of that. And as soon as you start learning something new, it can be really natural to slip into a place of needing to know why something you read is that way and going to find proof to either prove it or disprove it in those moments. And then you start working towards figuring this all out. And I had a good friend tell us the other day, actually, Justin said that place of trying to figure out the whys and the answers to all these things in this journey is that which will drive you to insanity. And so really just staying open to the process, not having to have all the answers, and staying free of holding yourself to any standard through this process. Just chill. Just let it go. Just let it be.
So let's start the story.
Yeah.
I think about myself in church days.
Mm-hmm.
And, you said that I had been saying this in church for a long time, but nobody had listened. And that thing that I had been saying, this is not prideful. I'm just saying that I can say nobody listened because it is happening now. But I had preached for many years that reformation will happen. Of course, in my box, in my context, I thought that's in the church, so the church will reform. But actually, I said, if it doesn't happen in the church, it's going to happen outside of the walls of the church.
Yep. You said it's some way it's going to happen. Reformation, which is, for lack of a better term, we would probably choose a different word now, but reformation was a good churchy word to use, because the church, I have so many reasons why the church has done this. Like, we need reform. We need, in the church.
It's ongoing. Like it never seems to reform.
Well, we know why now. That's another thing. Like revival, it's always coming. So we're
it's
just
never
waiting
happening.
for it.
Revival is either in the past or it's on the way.
And it's very, very deliberately done that way. So just coming out of church, and especially the mega churches and stuff, and seeing some stuff that we're watching and reading about right now, I mean, it's clear that in this consumer-driven industry that is the mega church, where shows are being put on and millions to billions are being spent on production and speakers and everything they're doing, it's interesting that the holding pattern is this, that we're heading into revival, because it's a great way to make sure no one leaves, because we're all waiting for this big event. We can't, Jesus seems too far away to hold on to.
It's our job.
Yes. Jesus coming back, which I don't believe in anymore either, but Jesus returning is a little too far to fetch to keep people where they need to be right now. So revival is the next best thing. Like, we're here to bring on revival. And so then people will stay for that because the event's coming up.
And this is one of the things, and there's different church movements. Like we said, we come out of a evangelical, charismatic, what you would see as the megachurch type model. But I have attended very traditional churches as well. Of course, I've studied world religions and studied denominations and things. But yeah, that is what I preach, that Reformation would happen outside of the walls of the church if it didn't happen in the church. And it has not happened in the church, and is not happening in the church. And it is happening outside of the church, which we would now deem consciousness, which happens through a process of awakening. If you think about the frustration you have right now, don't worry about it. What's happening is you're waking up, and that's called awakening. Yeah. And so consciousness is something we'll cover as well as we go, but it's actually being aware, actually being present. And that happens when you're not wrapped up in a program anymore. But I was so wrapped up in it that I would sit, when a preacher would preach, I would sit with my Bible open, on the Greek text so I could see the parallels, and I would judge that preacher, and I would lean across to you, and I'd say, that's wrong. That's wrong. That word means this and that. And you actually were like, dude, this is embarrassing. Just stop already.
It's just too much. It's too much information for me too.
But it wasn't just that they were getting it theologically wrong. I mean, a lot of it was, and also given, I will own my part, a lot of it was my ego. I still had a lot of ego to deal with then. And so I take my part in that. But the fact of the matter was, as we went along, it seemed like preachers were twisting scriptures to suit the theme of their sermon. Yeah. Later on, when I would end up on church staff, you'd realize that series of sermons are collected ahead of time. And, it's fine to do that, to be organized and such, but it does put you in this weird position. And I saw that play out where, because you're trying to prove something, you're trying to prove what you're preaching, using one scripture and exegeting it is not enough. Yeah. You need backup context, right? Yeah. Because else, it's just part of the thing that you have to adhere to. But it's something that preachers do as well to sound like they know what they're talking about. Yeah. But the problem is they start twisting scriptures that don't mean that to suit the theme of the sermon or the series that they're running. Yes. And that became more and more apparent.
Back in the day, like that wasn't a reason they would left church. You had already seen some of the cracks forming back in the day before we even got to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, I was there, and that was sort of, those were the first cracks that happened. It didn't lead to awakening or anything by any means. That only happened when I actually left the church, which was now probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah, 2022.
But, a lot of this journey for us has been very difficult.
Oh, most of it has been difficult. Well, because the biggest thing that happens, especially if you're like us and your community is in church, your identity is in church, your life is within the church. Like everything operates within the church. And then you start seeing things from a different perspective all of a sudden. That's what it feels like. Like you're fine. One Sunday you go to church and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, why did he say that? Wait, why does that not make sense to me anymore?
Or this seems controlling. That, like when we stood up and walked out of church that time, before we actually left the church, when we just left that other church.
Gosh,
that was controlling. I mean,
that was a really hectic situation. Yeah, you should tell the story. Okay.
You tell it. I think you remember it better.
So I just know, I think we were in worship at that time, and I'm trying to remember it, but it went something like this. We were in worship, and like sometimes you and I don't like to jump around and be wild in the charismatic like worship session that happens. So I know we were sitting down. A lot of people had started sitting down during worship. It
was a moment where it was kind of gentle, yeah.
Yeah, it was be really present, just like focus in on yourself a little bit. Ooh, this is crazy actually. Focus in on yourself a little bit. And as soon as that happened, one of the pastors stood up and actually like told everyone to stand up. If you're sitting down, like that's not what you should be doing right now. Like I need everyone to stand on their feet. And we were like, no.
There was a tone, and he said it a few times.
Yes, and was very condescending, and was very a lot of male energy came out in that moment. And you and I looked at each other, and we were really having a beautiful moment, and we didn't want to stand up, and I don't think we did stand up. And he went on and on and on until like almost everyone stood up, and then we stood up and picked up our stuff and walked out the back of those doors, and I don't think we ever came back.
Yeah, no, we didn't. We actually left mid-service, which was, and we were in the front row, which is like you don't do. And we actually went straight to a store and bought things to have communion at home.
We did do that.
That's what we did.
We did do that.
I mean, we were still, it's not like we were getting out of it then. It was just that spirit had gone too far.
We just wanted to spend time with God.
And we were involved in that church deeply from when they planted here. Yeah. So it's not like we just went to visit and this happened. We weren't like disgruntled. There are things that lead up to this.
Yeah. And so, I mean, coming out of that, I didn't think we'd actually go back to church when that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we only really went to one more church after that for 2 years.
And that formed out of friendship anyway, first. So yeah, I don't think, and that was the end of that. But you know, there's so much that happens when you leave church, and maybe some of you are experiencing this right now. But it's just such a massive disruption on your life. Like all the foundation that you've built, everything you've believed. I mean,
it's your whole identity.
It is. It's your whole identity. Community, as you would deem community.
Yeah. That was the hardest part for me because I wasn't even as bought in as you were, but I felt so alone when that happened. Like I felt really good and I felt like I was moving on, but then all of a sudden when you are on your own, you are only faced with yourself. And when you're in the church, there's this great distraction to be like focused on other things outside of you. You're focused on like worship and everything's outward, and there's a lot of like outward expression and
singing together. There's even a psychological thing about that, you know.
Yes, and you're focused about like your duties at church and like what you should be doing and not be doing, and it's really based on like other people and other people's approval, and a lot of comparison goes on in the church. And then you leave, and the only person you have to face is yourself. And in that moment, you go, "Whoa! I don't even know if I know who I am outside of Christianity."
That's true. That is the feeling. You're right. The feeling. That's
so huge. Yeah. It's such a huge moment in feeling that, but it's part of needing to happen.
And then you've got all the other stuff. What the heck do you do with Sundays?
I wasn't too mad about having
they were nice to have back, but there is that feeling and you're like, normally we'd be getting up and going to church. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you do with Christmas? What do you do with Easter?
That was the biggest one.
What do you do with your saying grace? I mean, it's just like, where does your belief system? It's very, very, the best word I've heard from a friend is unhinging.
It's a great word.
It's just totally unhinging. And one of the worst things about this is that you feel very alone, like you said.
Yeah.
You just feel very alone. And, why do we keep saying you're not alone? Like in this podcast, on the trailer, on the website, because we want you to know that you're not alone, because it's easy to feel like that because you've lost this whole identity. But, you were made to feel that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're made to feel like you're the outcast or on the outskirts because you question something.
Yeah.
You're made to feel that way because there's this paradigm that nobody else has ever asked these questions before.
Yeah, it feels like that.
You're the only one that's stepping out of line.
Yeah.
And you've got doubt. And probably the best answer you get is you must go pray about it. And the worst answer you get is let's cast this demon out of you.
No one's ever told me. Has anyone ever tried to cast a demon out of you?
No.
Please say no. Okay, good.
Because I don't think anybody had the balls to come up against my ego at that point.
That was the demon right there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm busy dealing with it now. And, and often you feel on the outskirts just because you've been programmed and conditioned that way. And so, yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah, in that you're not alone. Do you have any insight into I feel like there's a lot of people going through this right now.
Yeah.
Do you not have any numbers or, how many people leaving the church in drones?
What's crazy is for years I've always said the church is hemorrhaging people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that just seemed apparent. At the very best, people are leaving, new people are coming in, and they're just rotating. And so it just stays the same sort of thing. So you have a bunch of people leaving all the time, but a church might even stay the same size because they're getting new people. So, that's what makes it tricky to see visually. But even visually, it felt like people were leaving. And so I did look at the stats.
Oh, is that way?
Well, is this real? What's going on? Now check this out. These are the latest stats. I re-pulled them up just today. It blows my mind.
I'm so intrigued.
3,500 people.
Okay.
3,500 people leave religious congregations every day in the US.
I thought you were going to say like a week or no, I thought you were going to say like a month, maybe 3,500.
Around 1.2 million people per year. That amounts to 10 to 15% annual attrition in the church.
Do you think that's been progressive and that's where we're at now? Or do you think that's been happening for a long time? It's definitely been progressive.
And I've got stats about that as well.
I know.
It has absolutely been progressive. Yeah, I thought I'd just go down this road a little to prove that you're not alone. That's all I'm trying to do here.
It's like talking to ChatGPT in real life.
Yeah.
You're just giving me all the answers.
Don't bash ChatGPT.
I love ChatGPT.
Okay. ChatGPT can be part of your awakening process.
It's true.
Weekly attendance, right? Because that's important. Like weekly attendance, that's important because if you've got to make the money to keep the show going, then you need the weekly. Weekly attendance among US adults has declined from 42% 2 decades ago, right, to 38% a decade ago. So, that's cool, 4%. And now sits around 30% of weekly attendance.
Okay, that's quite a big drop.
30%. So, let's say your church is, You
don't need to do the math right now. I think we understand.
Yeah, you've got 30% of your people coming through. Math is not my strong point.
You almost took it on like fully. You were like, I could see you were ready to do math in your head and then you second guessed that very quickly.
Well, I was just going to go so easy. It would have been like a 5-year-old, like 100 people in your church.
Oh, you were
kind of the average.
Basic math. Okay.
Yeah. 30 people are coming every week. So,
wow.
Anyway.
That actually helped make the picture clearer.
Yeah. 1,000 people in your church, which would be a sizable church.
Yeah.
You're only really, statistically counting on 300 people being there every week.
Yeah.
How's this? Main Pipeline Protestant affiliation, so that's us, has dropped from 54% of the population in 2000 to 40%.
Okay.
So people that are Protestant and all that are I guess evangelical falls into this, charismatic falls into this. It's kind of like the upper side of the vibe. 40%. So, which is, it's an okay stat. I'll give it.
It's just that movement, so that's interesting.
Yeah. The reason that doesn't change so much, though, only 14% difference over a 24-year period, is because that is the movement that does well at putting on the show. That is the movement that has the best singers, has the best music, sells the most books, sells the most
records, music,
and
merchandise,
gets the awards. And so there is a machine behind that where, people do stay in, because if we're saying that you're programmed and you're conditioned into a lot of stuff, remember we also said that there is a narrow way to God through this. But if we're saying you're conditioned, then there is mechanism behind that, right? So there has to be a mechanism. Like I said earlier, singing music together is actually a psychological bonding moment.
That's true.
It's a very good tool to keep people coming back. So are lights. So are great singers who don't get paid.
Trendy preachers.
Great preachers, great sermons.
Yeah.
Just packaged, So, that movement keeps a bunch of people.
We didn't actually really... sorry. I'm just butting in here. But we didn't really experience that culture of the show of Christianity until we came to the United States. When we came here and we landed in Hollywood, California, and that was our first taste of the American church, was trying to go to church in LA.
Yeah,
I think, whoa.
No, that's true.
Crazy.
As far as the production value goes, yes.
Yes, that's what I mean.
But that is one of our differences in growing up in church, because in the church I grew up, in the mega church, we didn't have lasers and things back then, but it was slick. It was very slick. I mean, it was timed to the T. I was in the back room with that pastor, and he would have been the biggest he was the biggest evangelical pastor in Africa, one of the biggest in the world, Ray McCauley. And, I would pray for him before the service, walk through those aisles. I served on his security team.
Yeah.
For a period.
So you saw the slickness.
The model was still there,
Okay.
The structure was still there, but
as
far as production value, you're right. It was America.
Well, the machine of consumerism within the church, that's what I saw. That's what was different. It was this machine of consumerism, not so much the show and like having everything slick. It was the coffee shops, the merchandise, the band, and you would have like semi-celebrities coming in, and then if celebrities were coming to the church, they'd be roped off areas. Like it just felt very different.
It's the first time you saw it. I grew up with that.
Okay.
I grew up with that. When we had celebrities in the church, it was made known. Mm-hmm. And we had a massive bookstore.
Oh, okay.
My Bible I bought was in our massive bookstore attached to our massive our massive Bible college. And I bought the same Bible that was preached out of by our preacher, Ray McCauley.
Yeah, you wanted to be just like him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's my viewpoint. I was taken aback.
You're not wrong,
America,
but yeah.
Okay, interesting.
You're also not alone, because 40 million Americans have left churches or religious institutions over the past 25 years.
Sure, that's a lot of people.
Million.
Yeah, that's a
lot of people to leave something that claims to be giving you the ultimate answer to life.
I don't even know what to say to that, because that's actually very true.
Now it gets real. Roughly 15,000 churches are expected to close in 2025 alone. 15,000. Contributing to a broader trend of 100,000 closures projected in the coming years.
That's crazy to me.
Just let that sink in for a moment. I mean, that's a lot, dude. For people like us who were trying to lead a small church that had just been planted, and knowing how difficult it is.
Yeah. What's sad to me is the first churches that are probably closing are the ones with the older community in it, that are these little town churches that already don't have a lot of people, but they have these people have probably been going to church as a community for years and years and years, and I think because they can't keep up with the trends of the American charismatic evangelical church movements, that's just swallowing up these little churches,
Well, yeah, I mean, financially they're swallowing them up.
100%.
All the money's being spent there. It's aging out. I mean, new demographic, there's a lot of Gen Z that is going to church, finding a church because the show is good. The show is current.
Yeah.
And that is an attraction. But remember this, doesn't mean the church is growing just because a new population's going there, a new generation's going there.
Mm-hmm. No, we're clearly
We're cycling in and out all the time. But the closures, I mean, that speaks for themselves. The overall, this is the last stat I'll give you, the overall population of U.S. adults affiliating as Christian, all right? So calling themselves Christian, because you walk around and you think everybody's Christian, honestly. I don't know if everybody's like that, but I certainly did, especially living here in Texas. You just feel like everybody's Christian.
Yeah.
The overall proportion of U.S. adults affiliating as Christian fell from around 91% in 1976,
wow.
91%,
wow.
to 64% by 2022.
Okay, yeah, that's significant as well. Wow.
Huge.
That's crazy.
You're not alone.
Yes, definitely. So you're not alone at all. Okay, so then what made you leave the church? Because you left first.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent it accumulated over all of that time of like all the doubt and seeing the tomfoolery and stuff. But more than anything,
sorry, did you say tomfoolery?
Yeah, I did. I don't know why.
That's funny.
But I'm trying to be polite. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think everybody's moment comes when it's meant to come to you. In a way.
Yes.
And my moment was when a friend introduced me to a couple of Shane Willard sermons that spoke about the context of the Bible being preached incorrectly, and then a book from Richard Rohr, which is called The Universal Christ. And I didn't know that books would play such a massive role in it, but it prompted me to actually speak to our leadership then. We were leaders then, and say, hey, look, as a theologian, I really feel like there's some things here that I want to go and look at. And I was finding it very hard to be in church and look at these new things at the same time. I know why now, but at that point, I just couldn't figure it out. And this friend actually said to me, you won't be able to stay in church and explore this. And he was right. He was dead right. And so I said to them, I just want like kind of a semi-sabbatical in a way to go and look at these things as a theologian, as a long-term 40-year-long Christian. I think that's okay. Just take some time out and look at these things. And they didn't join me on the journey, not at all. Not that invite was shot down. And yeah, then our own journey started, and it started on the same book that I had been given to read that I gave to you.
Yes, and it's crazy because my whole journey from the beginning till even ongoing now has been through books. My whole journey, like I don't really listen well, so reading for me is like
that's my new ringtone.
No, I listen to other people. I don't listen to books well or like podcasts well, unless it's true crime. But yeah, so my journey started with books, and I think I actually read The Universal Christ before you. Didn't I?
Yeah, I think you did finish.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I'd love to share the quick book journey because I think it can help people too.
Oh, it's critical. It's absolutely critical because that led your journey, and I followed on after you, and that led my journey. And
yes,
what was so amazing is from the outside, I could see you changing on this trajectory, and it was like it's so, like you say, presented to you like it was so divine in a way.
It was divine.
Think about it. You've left church, you're discovering outside, but yet you're getting this divine kind of journey that's revealing what book should be next.
Yes, it was so divine.
And when you lay them down next to each other, which we will do, I'm sure, on our social media-ness, when you lay them down next to it, it is the perfect journey. And so, yeah.
It's crazy to look at it as like a whole picture now, because I'll take a picture of the books all in order of what I read them, and I'll post them on our Instagram. So if you're listening to this, go to at Unchurching Podcast on Instagram, and you can actually see all the books if you want to use any of these resources. But yeah, it started with Richard Rohr, and I mean, whoa. Coming out of Christianity, I thought my viewpoint of God was pretty big compared to like what I thought the non-saved people's view of God was. And then I read Richard Rohr, and I was like, excuse me, what? This is so much bigger already.
And he's a Franciscan bishop.
Yes. And
or former Franciscan bishop.
Yes, and his book, The Universal Christ, is really the main takeaway is the oneness of everything. And more than that is this Christ spirit, that it is not Jesus, and it is not Jesus's last name, as you always make joke about, but it's actually the spirit of creator, source, being that is in every living thing and in every living person, and that we don't need anything more than that, because the living God is in everything and everyone. And if it weren't, then that thing would cease to exist, which makes sense to me. It made sense to me because as a creative, like when I used to do a lot of choreography, I know if I go and create a piece on dancers that comes from me, there's no way that there's not a part of me in that piece that's being portrayed in whatever way.
Oh, interesting.
And so how does the source of everything create something and God is not in it? And I know that's how the story begins, but then at some point we're supposed to be separated from God and not have that spirit within us anymore as humanity. And that's why you need Jesus for salvation. Because if you have the spirit of life in you and it's sucked out of you because you're separated from God, you cease to exist. You
right, because it's sustaining life. So
it is life.
Every tree,
it's the breath.
Spirit, every living thing has a spirit. Look across at Fido. Fido has this spirit. Your Fido.
Okay. And so as I was reading this and discovering, because he says God loves things by becoming them, that means everyone has a piece of God in them. And that blew my freaking mind. This is actually really pretty. It's just like when we recover the foundational truth, about who Jesus and God is, faith becomes less about proving Jesus was God and more about learning to recognize the Creator's presence all around us and in everyone we meet. Doesn't that sound like what Jesus was doing?
Well, it also sounds completely different to what I believed in church. And
same.
It's like only if you've prayed the magic prayer have you got Jesus in you. Access
to a God.
Which is crazy because we hold that against other denominations as well, who are also quote unquote Christians. So it's wild. But that book was the start book, and it's the best starting book because it gave me language to a lot of the doubts that I had in church. And so, we'll put the links to these resources and these books in the description of the podcast so that you can get them. Because it's a great flow for this journey.
Oh, it's amazing. And so that was really the beginning. I went from the Universal Christ to Everything is Sacred, which is the practices and reflections of the Universal Christ, which expanded it even more and in the perfect way, like just introduced me but little by little to new ways of thinking and my vision and my expansion, and then even how close to God I felt in the process expanded. Like I started feeling closer to God than I ever have by learning things that the church would probably call anti-church belief. And so from that, I went into the Divine Dance, which is also Richard Rohr. And then after that, I went into the Richard Rohr, which is called Jesus's Alternative Plan, which is the Sermon on the Mount from a way different perspective.
Yeah, I never read that one. Yeah.
You didn't? You should go back and read it. It's really good. Yeah, and so it's just, I can see my whole journey playing out through these books. Like I can see where I was at. I can see where things picked up differently for me.
Yeah.
And it's actually magical. And I mean, everyone should be on their own journey, right? and find out what's going to work for them and how they can discover this thread, leading them to remembering who they truly are, which is the journey that we're on.
Yeah, it's super cool. You said that second Richard Rohr book was the one that really kind of revealed God to you, and you felt close to God through there. For me, it was Eckhart Tolle's book. Eckhart Tolle, yes. Or Tolle, as some say, I don't know, I always call him Eckhart Tolle. Funnily enough, was one of the on the hit list of thou shalt not read in Bible school and in church. Eckhart was seen as one of those. Yes. And I actually had a friend who recommended this book to me years ago, and I never read it. And I was still very much involved in the church there in Hollywood, and I never read it. I was not open. I was not ready for it. And then reading it all these years later, one of the things that it says in the book is that this book comes to you at the right time when you're ready.
It's crazy.
I was like,
whoa. The same happened to me with this book. Yeah. It came to you at the right time. That's insane.
But just being present and understanding how to be present is what revealed God to me more than anything, that I could understand the Christ Spirit was in the tree, sustaining that life, or in the air, or in non-believers.
Yes. And so that's the Power of Now. The book that you're referring to is the Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now. And there's a second one that comes after that.
Good for me to give the name, yes.
It would be helpful. And the other one is A New Earth, which is really awakening to your life's purpose. So I think the first one is like rediscovering your power in the present moment. And then the second one is like, okay, now that I know a little more about how to be present, what is my purpose here?
Yeah.
And identity and purpose were like the two biggest things I was missing coming out of the church. And I realized that from the Power of Now, when you realize presence in the present moment, and you first asked to turn inward. And for me, it was the first time in a very long time, or ever, that I had turned inward to look to myself, because church is such an output. It's such a worship, outward to God, outward to Jesus. The only time you're really turning inward is if you're searching for something that's wrong in you,
right. If
keeping you from God. Yes.
Sin or, that's right. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's all outward. It's doing things for others, and no false humility.
Yes.
Or no humility.
Well, you can't look inward.
You can't at all.
No, because it's prideful.
Which means you don't grow if you don't look inward.
Yes. And so my biggest confrontation was coming face to face with myself in this process, and going like, wait, who am I? Why is this telling me there's power in the present moment and in being me? And like, am I actually powerful? Do I actually have a purpose if it's outside of the church? And then it was a crazy part of the journey, and kind of launched me into what you would refer to as my overnight awakening experience, where I actually had a near-death experience in a dream that was very visceral and very real. And we'll speak about that at a later stage. I'll tell that story. But that launched me into more questions, and the questions were about the afterlife. And as much as I was a Christian and believed that I was saved and I was going to heaven because of that, and I thought there was a hell, I realized after that dream there were a lot of questions about the afterlife that I had no idea what the answers were. Not even wanted the answers about what the afterlife was, but wanted it to feel like that was truth. Like, yes, that does feel like what we're here for and what happens after this. Because we speak about this being temporal and the afterlife being eternal. The only picture I had was streets lined with gold, mansions the size of whatever you're working in this world was, you will get your mansion and prize in heaven. Worship all day and getting to do things you love forever. I don't know.
It's hard to think of right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to think. I don't know if it's harder to think that we believed that, or if it's harder to think that we didn't question it, that there's just some kind of fantastical place that you get to go to if maybe, I don't even know what the parameters are. You have to be the right denomination. You have to have said the right prayer. You have to be able to speak in tongues. You have to be baptized. I don't know, put whatever label you want on it. What are the parameters? Believe in Jesus? Well, even Muslims believe in Jesus. They just don't believe he's the Messiah. I mean, it's like, what is the parameter? Pray a prayer. Not all churches do that. Be Catholic. Pay your tithes. What is the parameter?
Well, yes. What is the real answer here? And so that catapulted me into like a whirlwind of like mental battles, like a whirlwind of mental battles. And again, I'll speak about that later, but it led me to read this book called The Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And he has 3 books, and I read all 3 of them: Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, Wisdom of Souls. And while it is studies done under hypnosis, and I know there's a lot in hypnotic studies about the power of suggestion in how these people are responding to hypnosis stuff, what it did do was open up my understanding of possibility, because it painted the soul realm as something that actually, the soul realm, which is the afterlife, it painted it as a picture that something actually resonated in me and goes, ooh, that feels like somewhere I've been.
Oh, yes. There was a strange attachment to when you feel like, it's so hard to say because there were so many things that I thought I believed were true because of how I felt about them, but this felt different in a way. There was a different kind of weight to it. And I read this book as well. And yes, I know you say that there can be bias in the process of hypnosis and such, but this is a much deeper state of hypnosis. And also, just the first book alone, 7,000 subjects that he interviewed, and they all came back with his past life stories and understanding of pre-life, where your soul was before you entered this physical body, and where souls go after this physical body, and what's all entailed in that whole space and everything. And it felt like it was providing answers, but it would be one hell of a job to orchestrate 7,000 people
to have the same experiences under
You'd have to be very, very good at suggestion.
No, I don't think that's what this is. And it is astounding how everyone almost has their own interpretation of the same thing. That's what happens. It's not everyone saying exactly the same thing. Everyone is telling their version of their story, their past life remembrance in a different way. But they all are saying the same thing. And so because I I need to see how true this is. I actually went and read Deepak Chopra's book, Life After Death. And
Deepak Chopra is another one on the no-no list. You are not allowed to read Deepak Chopra.
I didn't know that. Why?
His greatest rival is Ravi Zacharias, who passed away not too long ago. And, you have to stick with the Christian apologist, even if he has been discovered to have been committing sexual sins. But anyway, don't read Deepak.
Okay. I didn't have all these parameters, but I just didn't do any of it. I only read biblical Christian stuff in the past. Twilight. So this was a big jump for me. But what the cool thing was is Deepak brings ancient, mystical spirituality into it, obviously from the East. And what was cool was everything that he wrote about in the Book of Answers, which he calls it, lined up perfectly what people were speaking about in the soul realm. And so that just really solidified it all.
And that's why it's been an amazing journey, because every book you've read has complemented the other one, and it's all kind of formed this tapestry. I think maybe we pause with the books there, because that's enough to get going with.
That's a truth,
and we can bring this back at a later date, because we are going to refer to resources as we go through. But you mentioned the word ancient there, and one of the resources that was really massive for me was the Netflix show Ancient Apocalypse.
Cool, so cool.
Who's also another no-no in the Bible school and in Christianity is Graham Hancock, who wrote Fingerprints of the Gods. And so definitely go watch that, Ancient Apocalypse. And what it did for me at this stage, this early stage of things, was that it opened up history to me. Like you said earlier, like Deepak opened up that ancient sort of feeling to you.
Yes.
This did the same for me. It was like, okay, hang on. We believe in we base our whole sort of belief system, Christianity, around 6,000 years. It's like 4,000 years pre-Jesus, 2,000 years after Jesus, to be really crass about it. In fact, we really just base it on 2,000 years Jesus. In fact, we actually only base it after the printing press when everybody got the Bible. Actually, most of our Christianity, to be honest, only comes from like 800 years. And actually in that, most of your Christianity as a churchgoer only comes from one preacher who at best has probably been involved in the pulpit at most 12 years if he's had a good run. Some have been 20, 30 years. Sure, most have probably been 3 to 5 years. But you listen to that preacher not every Sunday because only 30% of you little bastards go to church all the time. So that means that you're only shaping your whole worldview and all of your deepest foundational truths for what you believe from whatever time you do go and hear that man speak, and he's shaping it from his very limited lifetime in this great expanse of what is actually proven in ancient apocalypse to be more than 250,000 years, and actually goes way beyond that, to be honest. But that's, I think, as far as they go in the documentary. And so this opened up my understanding of, whoa, hang on a second. There's a lot more evidence for civilized humanity than we speak about in the Christian church, and therefore that raises a lot of questions for me, because why would Jesus come so late? And what about all those people in civilizations that seem to be worshiping gods and things?
Yes, that's not like they think it's that old. Like, this is scientific evidence. And I know science is taboo in the church as well when it makes us feel uncomfortable and it makes us have to think outside our parameters and boxes. I know then we don't like science, but you can't, if you watch ancient civilizations, you can't question what they're presenting to you. It's very
you can go and see it.
Obvious. Yeah, it's cool.
You can go see it. So that was mega for me. And it's just been a very interesting journey about how we've been led in the early days along that. And I mean, we just can't wait to share more with you. There's so much, and we want to move also beyond church at some point. So this is kind of a makeup of like things we believed, but things we're discovering now. And what if this is true? And what if that is true? And such. And that is how this journey unfolds. But we do want you to know that you're not crazy.
Nope.
You're not alone.
No.
Definitely not. And although challenging and often lonely and difficult, awakening from this dream that we've had, awakening from this programming, from this conditioning, it is a beautiful thing. It is a wonderful thing. And there's a great journey here where you will discover yourself. You will discover life. You'll discover the divine. You'll feel closer to God than you've ever felt. You'll feel closer to nature than you've ever felt. You'll feel closer to fellow man than you've ever felt. And most importantly, you'll feel closer to yourself, who is actually God within.
100%.
Like you've never felt before. And so hang on to that and take the journey. Just take the journey.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yes, it's a beautiful journey, and we're going to dive right into that next week with Awakening, which I'm really excited about because it's such a beautiful process and it's such a beautiful thing. And here's a thought, like, what if Awakening is the salvation that we've actually been searching for all this time? We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found it valuable, please share it with someone who might need it too.
Head over to unchurchingpodcast.com for more resources or to book a free mentorship call. Sometimes you just need someone to process with.
Remember to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram at Unchurching Podcast. Till next time.
Cheers. Ciao. Goodbye.